Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the new second phase banners of Genshin 3.3. And here are the new second phase banners that will be coming out next week, with the 5 stars being Raiden and Shogun, Kamisato Ayato, with the 4 stars being Sayu, Rosaria, and Kudro Sara, with the 5-star weapon banner having Engulfing Lightning and the Horon Sword. I'll be talking about the character banner first, talking about each different character that's on banner, and then moving on to the weapon banner, and overall just giving my opinion on how good these banners are. So the first character we're going to talk about is Raiden. Raiden has been out for over a year slightly, and has gained some increase in her value with the introduction of Dendro. And when talking about Raiden Shogun, she is a burst carry that deals electro damage from her elemental burst, while also utilizing her elemental skill that gives elemental burst buff to your party members and dealing on-field and off-field electro damage. Her elemental skill is good in dealing consistent electro damage, and her elemental burst is also good in dealing a low ton of electro damage to any enemy that you use it on. Raiden is interesting coming out now because with the introduction of Dendro, she has gained some value in working with Dendro in terms of buffing her damage, and also working with Dendro in terms of reacting with related Dendro reactions. For example, she's great at utilizing Aggravate, which can increase her overall damage from her burst, which is great in making her a very strong hyper carry overall in terms of other characters that fit that role. And she's also great in proccing bloom reactions as an off-fielder. Because of how her elemental skill works, she can work on and off field in proccing bloom reactions to create hyper bloom reactions, which can make any hyper bloom comp really good. And not only just utilizing her elemental skill to just proc the blooms, but also utilizing the buff that her elemental skill gives to your other party members if your other party members use their burst in order to utilize bloom. In the beginning, she didn't really have that much supports to upskill her damage potential even higher compared to other characters that have been released during that time, but considering now with Dendro and how Dendro works with Aggravate increasing her burst damage significantly higher, her value has increased overall, and good in increasing her value in putting her in any team comp that utilizes Dendro. Considering that her best in slot is still the Emblem of Set for Fate, which is a good set for anyone to farm, not only can she utilize that set, but she can use basically any elemental mastery set to use her as a hyper bloom carry. She does scale off energy recharge, but if you want to use her in hyper bloom related teams, then you could definitely do that by just putting elemental mastery on her pieces and just using her elemental skill only, which just makes her easier to use overall. Now, in terms of hyper bloom related teams, you don't have to pull her in order to make a good hyper bloom team. There are 4-star characters that could be good in hyper bloom, for example Kuki Shinobu. You can put her on triple elemental mastery and use her elemental skill, which can easily proc the blooms on field, and she is also a healer, just in case you want to use a healer on your team. But even though you don't need to pull for Raiden in terms of hyper bloom, I do think her value does increase slightly even more. The fact that you can utilize her in 2 different ways. Overall, I think she has gained some value over time, especially when Dendro released, in utilizing her as a hyper carry and utilizing her as a bloom reactor, especially when using her with Nahida, where these 2 characters really synergize well with each other. Honestly, I think she is a good pull overall for anyone to have on their account. And now moving on to my C6 King, Kamisato Ayato. Now in case you don't know, I really like Ayato. He's one of my favorite characters. I have him C6, I have him Triple Crown, I have him on his best slot set, and also his 5-star weapon. I've basically been using him a majority of the time throughout this whole year. I think the best way to describe Ayato is a DPS character that can be on field and also off field, with his elemental skill basically converting his normal attacks to hydro damage with really good AoE that scales off his attack in some HP, which is not really the best, but some, I guess. His elemental burst is an on-field burst where it leaves an AoE on-field, similar to like Ganyu, where it deals AoE hydro damage periodically. Now, when talking about Ayato as being a DPS, he's not the strongest candidate in terms of fitting that role as an on-field damage dealer, or with his burst as well. Ayato is a good character in terms of fitting as a hydro unit, with utilizing hydro related reactions. The only team comp that he's not really great in is Vape with Bennett and Xiangling, but in other team comps like Electrocharge, Freeze, Bloom, he's a really good candidate in fitting that role, but not the strongest candidate in fitting that role. He's not the strongest, but he's definitely not the weakest. I will say Ayato is honestly one of the most balanced characters to ever release during this second year of Genshin. He's a very good, solid Hydro unit that can fit in utilizing Hydro related reactions if you need a Hydro character. Even though he's not the strongest, he is a good unit to have in any account. He is definitely a very solid option to go for in terms of using an on-field Hydro unit. Now when talking about comparing Ayato to other Hydro units that fit the same role, for example Tartaglia, I would say they both basically do the same thing, it's just one functions differently from the other. And one definitely has better Hydro application, with that being Tartaglia. But honestly, the way how Ayato functions with him having that off-field burst and a good elemental skill to use with not even that long of a cooldown, because as soon as you proc your elemental skill, his cooldown will already start as soon as you proc it. The best way to say his overall status in Genshin is that he's a very balanced character that can be utilized in every Hydro scenario, where he's definitely not the strongest, but he's definitely not the weakest. He is a solid option if you do want an on-field Hydro unit that doesn't have that much mechanical understanding to fully utilize their potential compared to like Tartaglia, and I think he's a solid character to have on anyone's account. And now when moving on to the 4-star characters, I'm going to quickly move through these because I have talked about some of them before in the past. For example, with Sayu, she's not that great of an Anemo unit. She's just an Anemo healer that does healing, but really not that great off-field Anemo application in terms of swirling. She has a cool elemental skill, I guess, but honestly, she doesn't really do much for your team, so she's not really worth building that much. Rosaria, she is a good cryo 4-star unit, but if you do like Kea, then you don't really need to build Rosaria. They both work differently, but kind of fit the same role, with being an on-field cryo unit that can apply cryo to the enemy. I think she's a good 4-star, but not a good 4-star to roll for. And now moving on to Kutrosara. Now, Kutrosara is a very interesting 4-star to talk about. If you were to pull Raiden and you get Kutrosara, the way you would have played Raiden before is using Sara with Raiden to buff Raiden's damage overall. Now, even though you can use her still to this day with Dendro, but I think it's way better to utilize other characters that can utilize Dendro with Raiden as an Electro unit instead of just having 2 Electro units on your team. For example, you can use an on-field Hydro unit to utilize Hyper Blooms, or you can utilize another Dendro character to utilize Aggravate. And also the way she functions can be pretty annoying with having to do a charge attack to get the attack bonus, and also having to get enough energy to proc your burst in order to get the attack bonus for your on-field character. It is overall really annoying and a hassle to use. She's basically kind of like the Farosei and Goro to Raiden Shogun. You could definitely try to use her, but I honestly don't recommend building her. So overall, with the 4-star options on both of these banners, I would say they're kinda not great at all. It's only worth if you're pulling for the 5-star on banner. And now moving on quickly to the weapon banner with the Haran sword and engulfing lightning. Now both of these weapons are pretty good in their own right with their own respective character, but honestly, when pulling this weapon banner alone, it's not really useful for any person to pull on, considering that Haran is a good stat stick and Engulfing Lightning is a good weapon with energy recharge that can be good with any character that utilizes a polearm that can be used with the emblem set. But overall, when looking at this banner, it's not really great for anyone to pull on, only good if you're pulling for one of the rate up characters on banner, and with the 4 stars being the 4 stars. And that is everything I have to say about the second phase banners of 3.3. Let me know in the comments of what you guys think of these banners. Honestly, overall, I think they're kinda not great. I think they're kinda bad in terms of like the 4-star options. I think for the rate of 5 stars, they're pretty good. It just sucks that they didn't give them good 4-star options to put with them. So overall, if you're pulling on these banners, only pull for the 5-star characters. Don't really focus on the 4-star characters. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, subscribe for more content in the future, and look for my 2 new re-debut videos for both Raiden Shogun and Kamisato Ayato in their strongest form, with both of them being at C6 and triple crowns. So definitely look out for those showcase videos from me. Check me out on Twitch, the link will be in the description below. That's it for today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.